Okay. Hi, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Got up and went for a long walk this morning, so that felt really good at 40 degrees. I'm okay with the cold
Nice.
weather though. So, all right. So we will just jump right into things. The first question that I will ask, because that is huge for everybody out there that wants to know how we mix conjugate with CrossFit. So how do we program, or what are we looking at when we're programming WODs in association with like our conjugate training throughout the week?
Okay. So I'll get into that 1 second. One thing I want you to do is remind me, just in case I forget. It happens once in a while. At the end, I want to talk about some of the things that we can do for conjugate. That's not what we normally think of. You know, what can we do to help ourselves as athletes that in this time when we don't have other things available to us that actually can make us successful that we might not have thought about.
All right.
But when we're talking about programming for a CrossFit athlete, we have to look at what level athlete do we have? How many days a week do they train? Okay, so ultimately, take a real high level, like a games competitor or someone who's can handle a high volume. I see a friend of mine, Jared, joined, and he's one of my athletes, and he handles a high volume of training. Okay, it's pretty simple. That for them, it's very simple actually. We do what we call like our West Side workouts or our conjugate workouts, right? So we'll hit our full strength work. Our main movements are either geared towards powerlifting movements or weightlifting variations. Our accessories are designed to work on the flaws for that athlete, where they're weak at. So the accessories could be to strengthen a weightlifting movement, a powerlifting movement. Accessories could be higher repetition for muscular endurance if someone is weak in that realm. Our accessories can also include gymnastic style movements. What I mean by gymnastic style movements is that I used the example the other day of we found that Russian dips are good for certain gymnastics movements, correct? So we can use Russian dips or variations of that or accessory movements. It's not something that you'd commonly see a powerlifter do. Not that they shouldn't do it. They should filter stuff like that in once in a while. But it's something that might be done a little more often for a CrossFit competitor. So our accessories, remember, are geared towards what our weaknesses are. If our weakness is body weight movements, if our weakness is weightlifting, our weakness is powerlifting, our weakness is muscular endurance, we choose our accessories towards what's weak. We choose our rep scheme towards the type of strength that we want to gain. Okay, so like a 1 rep max is more absolute strength. We get into more repetitions. We're looking at more strength and endurance. So, according to what, we work on what we need. I'll use Jared as an example. He's someone who we're working on strength right now. I just had a message from him actually earlier this morning I read, and it's like one of the things that takes longer to build strength than it does to build endurance for someone who's already had good endurance. So for him, we're more worried about bringing strength up because the endurance will be there when we need it to be, once we hit competition phase. So typically what it would look like is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday would be our strength or dynamic days. So let's say max effort lower on Monday, max effort upper on Tuesday, dynamic, lower on Thursday, max effort, upper, dynamic upper, I'm sorry, on Friday. So then on our Wednesdays and Saturdays, that would leave us room for gymnastics type movements, and we would do longer WODs in those days. Now, if you're an elite, like world-class level lifter, an hour after your workout, you can do another full workout, 100% effort.
Right.
Now, that's not a lot of people, but for elite athletes, you can do that. So after the strength work, ideally we'd like an hour break, and then we would go into a WOD that we would, need. WODs, the design of the WODs are laid out. What does that athlete need? We have athletes that are good at all different types of WODs in their structure, so we always go after what we're not good at, right?
Right.
So they could be short, fast WODs, medium to longer WODs, depending on what the athlete does to recover, as far as how their eating habits are. What do they work as? This is a full-time job for them. So that can vary. There's a lot of variation when you're talking about elite level athlete. When you're talking about an individual who trains maybe 3 days a week, okay, someone who's more recreational, but they want to get as much out of that time as possible. Then what I would do is I suggest that you take a max effort and dynamic day. Say that if they train 3 days a week, they're also probably limited on time.
Right.
You usually don't have people say, well, I only train 3 days a week. but I can train all day. That
Right.
just doesn't happen. They're usually an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So at that point, what I do is say max effort upper, find a max press, whether it's an overhead press or a bench press variation, within 15 minutes, or find a max lower body, a deadlift or squat, within 20 minutes. I will pick 2 heavy accessory movements that's the biggest weaknesses. So let's say it's for lower body day, let's say your weaknesses are your spinal erectors and hamstrings. So I'll pick an exercise for each one of those, 8 to 12 reps usually, depending if we have other special needs. So if we are someone who needs more muscle mass in our hamstrings, and we're off season, we'll go more towards 20 reps. If we need to increase our strength when we get closer to season as our muscle mass increased, so our leverage is increased, then we can drop our rep scheme and get more strength out of that and get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what the rep scheme could look like for, say, our hamstrings or spinal erectors, depending on our needs at that point. We can get through that. If it's 20 minutes to find a lower body max, if you do 3 sets of 2 different exercises, you're done with that in 9 minutes, right? So now you just took, say, 30 minutes to do your max and your accessories. Now you have 30 minutes for a WOD. Take 5 to 10 minutes, let yourself kind of recover a little bit, set everything up, hit your WOD at that point. A lot of times when people start, they'll say, man, I'm a little fatigued, my timers are a little slow. But then after 5-6 weeks, what you'll find is that they actually are able to hit PRs in the WODs after hitting a max, which is something they couldn't do before.
Right.
So obviously they can handle a higher volume of training and obviously some capacity increased. It's our whole goal is to be able to increase capacity, right? The higher volume you can handle, again, the faster you can make change. So that would be our goal. So that'd be like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Now, when we're looking at like the West Side system, conjugate system, it's a minimum 4 days, 4 training sessions, right? 2 maxes, 2 dynamic. So if I did 3 days, it would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and the 4th workout would be on the following Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, a friend of mine in Florida, he works with Olympic medalists in sprinting. He works with professional baseball and football players, and he does the same split 3 days a week. The 4th day goes on Monday with those athletes, and he's taking people to the highest levels doing that same thing. So you can still achieve good results.
Gotcha.
By doing that.
So how would you program for an actual like CrossFit box then, as far as like what their workouts would be, what the WODs would be in association with what their accessories and their like ME days are? So like say on Monday, we're going to go ahead and pull sumo, but then how would you program their WOD for them on a Monday or whatever?
Well, it used to be one of those things where when we first started, our coaches were newer to teaching the conjugate method with CrossFit. Our athletes were newer to this. And so it took longer to get things to move along. So a lot of times we would put our accessories into our WODs, right?
Oh.
So, just like you can do a deadlift in a WOD,
Right.
you can also do a stiff-legged deadlift in a WOD or a sumo stiff-legged deadlift in a WOD. So you can put a movement for the body part in the WOD. As my coaches got more efficient and the athletes at our gym became more accustomed to the conjugate method and became more efficient as well, and even our gym evolved and we added a lot of different equipment that helped us get a higher volume of people through this, and that allowed more options for us as well. So then it ended up changing, right? So at that point, the WODs, kind of like CrossFit, ready for anything at any time, right? So it doesn't really matter what shows up if you can recover fast enough.
Right.
So if everybody got in shape, in good condition, we didn't necessarily have to put an accessory movement into a WOD.
Right.
Okay. So basically, if you find 20 minutes to find a max deadlift, right? And then you can pick 1 or 2 accessory movements depending on how fast your class moves and what things you have available to you. But you can pick an accessory movement that's needed the most. And let's say you only have time for 1 accessory movement. What you can do is say, half the class has weak hips. The other half of the class has weak hamstrings. So half of you are going to do 4 sets of 10 hip bridges. The other half is going to do 4 sets of 10 glute ham raises or sumo stiff-legged deadlifts.
Right.
Right? So, if it took you 20 minutes to find a max deadlift, 6 minutes later, you should be done with that accessory.
Right.
Okay, that's plenty of time. Okay, so you're 26 minutes in, at that point. So you're under a half hour. Let's just say it's a half hour. If you have a 15-minute AMRAP in there, 20-minute WOD, you have plenty of time.
Right.
Now, I would tell you that there's a couple things that make this, it's really important for this. One, that I believe you have to be an educational facility. I believe that that's what we're here for. We're here to educate, teach people what their body needs to achieve the results they want. I want our clients to have total freedom to know how their body works and how to get it to where they need it to be. So one thing that's important when our coaches are explaining the workout is, also to ask the athletes and the clients questions. We're using a safety squat bar today. Why do we use that? Mm-hmm. And this helps keep them engaged. What I find is if you're talking about sitting at the whiteboard and explaining the workout before the workout starts, when you ask questions, people are worried they're going to get asked next or next time, so they start paying attention to the answers.
Yep.
But when they pay attention to the answers, they learn it. When they learn, they'll also pay attention and see that value in class or to themselves or to their body, and then they'll be ingrained in them. They know why they're doing what they're doing, and so it becomes important. When it becomes important and when they fully understand why it works, it'll be easier for them to set things up. It'll mean more to them, and they're more likely to be more efficient and get right at it. So it's very hard to control a class if people aren't paying attention. So when you're firing out questions at people pay attention better, right? So teach your clients, yes. So teach your clients what they're doing and why they're doing it. Teach them how to set up each movement that you're doing. When they understand and know how to set the movements up, it'll be more efficient in class and you get a lot more done, okay? Mm-hmm. What I find is that, there's all different types of CrossFit gyms. Some should just be social. People get in a little bit better shape, and they have the social aspect and they just really enjoy it. And those places, I'm not knocking them at all. They are what they should be. There are people who they don't want to train at my gym. Mm-hmm. They want to train at gyms like that. And it's good. They have a place. They're going to be in better shape than if they didn't train. Right. And they're going to have a social aspect that makes them happy and de-stresses them. It's a great thing for them, right? That's not what I'm interested in, and that's not what my gym's about. And that's not what my clients are into when they come in. My clients want the most they can get out of the time they're at the facility. Yeah. So we tend to have a different type of clientele, which I also do believe is helpful for a successful business because I believe it means more to them because they're a little more bought in and they're a little more disciplined and they're more driven towards these goals, right. Health goals. So I think that you can keep clients longer and I just like the atmosphere of it. I mean, it's, everybody should have the gym that they want, build the gym that you want, build the atmosphere you want. That's the atmosphere I want. Yeah. So in that, when you educate your clients on what they're supposed to be doing, you teach them how to set things up, it becomes faster, more efficient, and we get a lot more done. And that's why we get people very driven because they are doing 3 times the amount of volume that some other gyms are doing. Yep.
And I personally have noticed that anytime, and again, not bashing any other gyms out there, but when I go into Conjugate, it's like, okay, we know exactly what we're doing. And because of the constant education that Coach Alex and Luke are throwing out there all the time, like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. Let's move on to the next thing. This is what we're doing, why we're doing it. Move on to the next thing. But then I go to other gyms and it's like, oh, there's a lot of warming up, which is not terrible at all. But then I'm like, okay, what are we doing? We're just going to whiteboard all day today? Like, what's happening? But I feel like that personally is what kept me going back to Conjugate as a member. And I think that is the knowledge part of it was really, and especially being someone that wants to soak up knowledge, it helped tremendously where I was like, okay, like I know what I'm going in for today. I know that if I have questions that the coaches will be able to answer it. And if they don't, obviously they would reach out to you or Nicole or whoever for it, but they'll come back with an answer. And I think that's super important when you are in a gym setting, in the group fitness setting anyways. And that's what sets us apart from any other gym, So again, I love all the gyms out there. Thank you for letting me get a workout in. But anyways, all right. So on to the next one.
One more thing. Sorry.
What?
Sorry, one more thing. No, there's a need for all different types of gyms.
Yeah.
And they are just as valuable as our gym. They're just different, right? One thing I want people to understand is that I want to optimize you for CrossFit. I'm not trying to get you to be a Westside Barbell lifter if you're in a CrossFit gym, right? What I notice is that you know, when we're working in general population, everybody comes into the same facility and everybody does the same workout. The thing about constantly varied in CrossFit is that eventually everybody is going to become balanced, right? But some people are so injured, broke down, move so poorly, have some weaknesses, have had accidents, things happen to them, that the specialization we can pinpoint, bring those weaknesses up faster, get them into being able to do the classes and move better, and we don't have to wait as long. The other thing is we increase those strengths, producing more force at a faster rate of speed, things like that, is that we can actually make them go through their CrossFit workouts more effectively. So if I can get someone to move a barbell faster, now it's, you know, it creates that snowball effect. They're moving the barbell faster, but now their conditioning component's going to kick in a lot quicker too, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we're doing the conjugate method to optimize, you know, our CrossFit, right? So that's a key component to it. You know, it's not just, you know, that we're lifting heavy and doing CrossFit. Our goal is to optimize ourselves for it, you know.
But there's definitely a difference where we now, and this is funny, now that we're doing all these like at-home workouts, like, oh my gosh, where's the barbell? Like, you can actually get a good workout in at home, but like we crave, as our members, like we crave that barbell. It's so funny.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at like, so people who've ever visited our gym or trained at our gym, what you notice is that our muscle mass is at a higher level than most. So like we tend to be leaner and more muscular in a lot of gyms. And that's because of the amount of volume with a barbell that we have. And so when you're at the at-home workouts, when you train with as heavy as we do and accessories that we do, it's impossible to keep that level of muscle mass on just by body weight workouts. You know, some people can do it who don't train heavy. For us, it's the opposite. So when they see that, they think, oh, well, there's a capacity going away. Well, there is a capacity going away. If you could you can get phenomenal workouts just body weight and CrossFit, right? If all you had to do, the CrossFit Games would never have a barbell and they would never have an implement, right? There'd never be strongman implements. There wouldn't be a bar. There wouldn't be weightlifting. There wouldn't be, you know, powerlifting. There is, because ideally to have everything available to you, that is when you're going to get at the highest level possible.
Right. Yep. Okay. So next is, outside of percentages, how do you figure out what numbers to use?
Outside of percentages?
Yeah.
So optimally, we use percentages for a reason, right?
Right.
So then when the individual asks this question, I don't know if they understand maybe how to get the percentages or what we mean by that. But if you didn't have, outside of percentages, it's rate of speed. So if you have, say, example, like a form collar or a tendo unit, and you can measure bar speed, you actually don't need to know your percentages. If you're moving at, I mean, it helps because we wave it up 5%, 5% a week.
Yeah.
A few weeks for our dynamic lower. But ultimately, if you're moving the bar between 0.8 meters and 1 meter per second, in a box squat, for most people, it's roughly 1 second down, 1 second up.
Okay.
That would put you in the middle. What I would tell you is that most people move the bar too slow. Even if they're using the correct percentages, if they're new to this or they don't have an experienced coach in the conjugate method watching them or explaining things to them, a lot of times they move the weight too slow at the percentages that we give. Or maybe the first 2, 3, or 4 3-week cycles through dynamic work, that they should lower the percentage maybe 5% or 10%. If they know they're a slow individual, if you're the person in class and coaches are yelling at you to go faster, you're naturally a slow individual, right? So you're going to need to lower your percentage probably by 10% for a little while until you feel that speed coming on. So the speed of the bar is more important than actual percentage. Right. What we're doing is we're giving you a percentage that if you're at a good facility with coaches who know what they're doing, majority of people will fall within the side of this percentage and move the bar the speed we want them to. If you move the bar too slow, if you have too much weight on the bar, what is happening now is that you're no longer training speed strength, so we're not working our force rate production correctly the way we want to transfer it into the sport that we're doing. The other thing that it's going to do is we're not going to recover as fast. And if we don't recover as fast, eventually it's going to catch up to us, and then our numbers are going to take a hit. If I'm looking at weight, I always, on dynamic effort, I always err on the side of lighter. You know, we build the strongest powerlifters in the world. You know, you look at Westside Barbell as the strongest powerlifters in the world. You look at, you know, my gym has produced, you know, broken world record after world record. You know, over 100 times my athletes have stepped on the platform and broken world records. Westside Barbell even more than that, right? Mm-hmm. But we'll err on the side of lighter than heavier on dynamic work. It's about the speed. that we're training at, okay? Speed is a special strength, all right? Special strengths are the different types of speeds needed for the type of sport you're doing. So if you're training at the wrong speed, you're training at the wrong sport, okay, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's very important to know what speed we're moving the bar at. Form collars are good. There's a little equation you have to do because it doesn't directly give you meters per second, I don't think, unless it's been updated. Tendo unit does give you meters per second. I know there's a couple other brands out there, but I am at a point I don't necessarily need them. It's nice to have those things. I do have form collar. I had a Tendo unit, it broke, but I've had one. But I don't necessarily need one. But if you are new to coaching or newer to this method, it would be a wonderful tool for you. If you're training and you're not a coach and you're new to this method, what I'll tell you is a lot of people get faster and they're excited because they get faster, their squats are faster, they jump higher, and then they're excited about this. What a lot of them don't realize is then after a while they kind of cap out and they're moving the bar at the same speed on speed day all the time, but they're actually now capable of going faster because they're even stronger, more explosive than they were. So we use what we call CAT training, compensatory acceleration training. And what CAT training means is basically that you accelerate all the way through range of motion as fast as you're capable of. Most people will accelerate really hard out of the hole in a squat and then right near the top they slow down. They don't even realize they do it half the time, but they actually slow down.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go all the way through. There should be a snap at the top. You see the hip snap through and boom, there's a snap into the bar, right? It's not an ease into the weight. If you're doing that, you're not doing this correctly. What is happening then, if you're moving the same weight at a slower speed, you're producing less force.
Right.
Okay? So let's say me and you are exact same strength, exact same speed. But you're accelerating the bar at 0.8 meters per second. I'm accelerating the bar at 1 meter per second. I am producing more force every single rep because we go up, we do the first half of the same speed, but you back off before you rack it. I don't.
Right.
What's going to happen is, what happens if I produce 50 pounds more force than you every single rep, 12 sets of 2 over a year? How much volume over the year do I have how much has my force production been increased over yours? Yeah. Don't tell me I won't outdo that. Right. We're no longer going to be lifting the same way. I will out squat you, out pull you at this point. Now, we're doing the same workouts. We started the same strength. The only difference is execution. Mm-hmm. Execution is huge in the way we do movements, but the speed of the movement is phenomenal. Now, what I'm getting at is having a tendo unit, having a form collar, what this will allow us to do is see if we back off our speed. Okay? If you see that speed level drop near the end, then what you'll do is you just set it up, and every set you look at how fast, you look at the graph, how fast did you move each rep. You say you do 12 sets of 2. I always cut the last rep, the second half slows down a lot. Yeah. And then you just try to beat yourself. Okay, I hit 0.8 meters per second. Okay, next set I need 0.87. All right, next set I need 0.88. Right. All right, next set I need 0.9. And you just try to beat yourself and go, because ultimately you have a neurological adaptation. Neurologically, your fastest set should be your last set. You'll adapt to the bands, the accommodating resistance, the chain, whatever you're utilizing, and your last set should be your fastest. So it allows you something to shoot for, and you push, 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 and fight. And what I would tell you is there's a big difference from athletes who do that every set on their speed days and the ones who don't.
Right.
And I would tell you that 99% don't follow compensatory acceleration training. Most people who train the West Side method, train the conjugate system that we talk about, aren't even aware of compensatory acceleration. Then if they're aware of it, is it in the forefront of their mind every time they do dynamic effort? Right. Most it is not. But if it is not, you can benefit from utilizing that. Okay, that was Dr. Hatfield, Dr. Squat, first 1,000-pound squatter in the United States, or in the world. He's the one who really pushed that in the United States.
That's interesting. Okay, so this is always something fun that I like to talk about. That snap, well, I guess you don't snap that way, but when you're actually like coming up to bring your hips to the bar, what muscles are weak points at that spot? Anyways,
hips and glutes.
Yeah.
If you look at our athletes, if you look at Sweatshop, if you look at our athletes, if you look at Conjugate, CrossFit Conjugate, and you look at our athletes there, and you look at like Westside Barbell, what I always tell you is you always know who lifts at Westside Barbell. You always know who lifts at my gym, because we train using the same methodology that Westside uses, and our athletes move the same way. You'll see a snap in their hips in a deadlift or in the top of a squat that you don't see in anybody else's athletes.
Yeah.
If you're not doing accommodating resistance, if you're not using, if you're not doing dynamic work correctly, and you're not doing accessories, like we do a lot of accessory work for our hips. Our glutes and hips are strong, they're powerful. They should be. They're the biggest muscle group in your body, your glutes, right? They should be. If they're not, nobody's paying attention to you.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, that's the thing though. Very strong, big muscle grip, big drivers. How much work do we actually put into those often? We put a lot. Most people don't put nearly enough in. But the acceleration with your glutes, most people don't have that acceleration. Most people are slow, so you don't see that snap. Now, CrossFit talks about you have to optimize core to extremity acceleration to optimize an athlete, and that's 100% true.
Right.
But it is impossible to optimize. You can always improve, but it's impossible to optimize without the use of accommodating resistance. The physics has shown us that as your leverage increases, your body backs off its force production. So if you are not, what we're using bands and chains for is to offset your leverage, right? As your leverage improvement. As your leverage improves, we've all done like an 8-rep max squat. And the first half of the squat feels heavy. The second half almost feels like you get a break before the next rep, right?
Right.
Well, we use a percentage to offset that leverage. It feels the same way all the way through for us, right?
Yep.
So, around 25-30%. So for us, we're putting 25-30% more effort in the second half of our lift every single time we're using accommodating resistance. So someone who doesn't use that can't do that. It also allows us during speed work for our body to produce maximal force production, force it as fast as it can, your force rate production, all the way through range of motion. If you are not utilizing that, it will back off and kick off the second half, right? So we're optimizing core to extremity acceleration, which when you're looking at, say, something like Fran, right? If you have optimal mobility in your shoulders and you can do Fran, the pulse and Fran unbroken, and the only way you're going to get faster at Fran is a faster cycle time on your thrusters.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do speed work and we accelerate through full range of motion all the way through, we're going to be 20, 25, we're probably going to be 25-30% faster through the second half of the movement than someone who doesn't do that.
Right.
Okay. So we're going to pick up time there, and that's how we're going to win. Right? So it's important to train at their correct speeds. That's the most important part of it. Percentages are designed to get you at those speeds, and they're designed ultimately, if, say, for you have to take 10% off,
Mm-hmm.
we want to get your speed up as fast as possible so you fit within inside those percentages. Those percentages give us the amount of volume that we need to achieve the result we want. So if, when you're looking at this, if you're using 25% band tension, and you're using 50% bar weight, if you are a 400-pound squatter, that's 200 pounds bar weight, 100 pounds band tension.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? To be a 400-pound squatter, you need to be able to squat 12 sets of 2 at 0.8 meters, 1 meter per second with that weight. Okay? Now, that gives you the volume you need to be a 400-pound squatter. If you squat half that volume, you will not be a 400-pound squatter in a few months.
Right.
You will go back, okay? You look at the best weightlifters in the world and throughout history, Solomon, he, first triple body weight, weightlifter. The guy wins the Olympics, world championships, and then all of a sudden, they're noticing that his numbers are going down and he's not hitting as big a weight. Coaches look through his logs, find out his volume dropped a little bit. They bring his volume back up, back to hitting PRs and hitting bigger weights than he's ever hit in his life.
Right.
Volume is extremely important. There's a certain amount of volume you have to squat 400 pounds, a certain amount for 500, a certain amount to 600. So while I'll tell you get those speeds are the most important. At first it's the speed. Then it turns into the speed and the combination of that volume to give you those lifts, right?
Right.
But if you train those speeds and you're doing our max F and our accessory movements, it will naturally come up to where it needs to be. Just pay attention to that.
Right.
In 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now, you should still look to get as much speed out of every inch or range of motion on that squat, bench, deadlift, whatever it is that you're trying to increase your force rate production on.
Right on. All right, so back to what you wanted me to remind you of. What can we do to help athletes in times like these?
So, a lot of things that the conjugate method is constantly varied. You look at CrossFit talks about constantly varied. You look at the best weightlifters in the world have the most variation. The Chinese and the Russians have the most variation. The conjugate method was developed in Russia. It was evolved and pushed by Westside Barbell. The Chinese national team uses the conjugate system, and they're the ones with the most variety available to them. They're the ones that last the longest, have the highest success rate and highest duplication rate. When you look at weightlifters in Russia and other sports, that, you know, even if they're doing, say, hockey, for example, weightlifting as an example, those athletes, those teams, they'll actually play soccer and stuff together. So in the off season or on off days or after training or between training sessions, they'll play soccer, volleyball, basketball. So why does a weightlifter do that? It makes them more athletic.
Multi-sport.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing for it is, what they're doing is like almost kind of like their version of CrossFit, right? They're playing these games. These games work their mind because they start working strategies. They start realizing who's weak at what, who's strong at what, and they start to put game plans together. They're athletes. They like to win. Doesn't matter what the sport is. The other thing, too, is, you know, it doesn't hurt to have really good footwork from, say, soccer as an example. The conditioning level of soccer is known to have, soccer players are known to have great conditioning, so they're getting GPP work in, right? So they're getting conditioning and they're getting a mental break, okay? So between the psychological breaks that they get from playing another sport, the hand-eye coordination, foot-eye coordination that they're getting, the GPP they're getting, they are literally benefiting every type of strength that they could utilize or increase or improve to become a better athlete. So, you know, and I'll use an example for me. So during this time off, I'm shooting more frequently. Okay, so I shoot in competitions. But even if I didn't shoot in competitions, I would shoot actually to make myself better at sport. Okay, and how it translates to me is I have a timer. Buzzer goes off. It times how long it takes me to do my actions. It actually counts and times every single shot I take, so I know how long it took me to transition from each target, and I'll know where I'm slow, what I'm not good at, what I'm good at. If I make a mistake, I don't get mad, I don't get upset. I have to make up for that mistake as fast as possible because I'm still overall trying to get the fastest time I can.
Right.
So if I overall take all the targets out in a faster time, but I made a mistake on one of the movements, then I know, all the other positions that I hit were the best that's been today. Now I just have to not have that hiccup on the one that I made a mistake on. I adjust that, and I run even a faster time. What that does for me is you'll see people make a mistake, and you see them get angry and upset. That is a wasted emotion and wasted energy.
Oh, yeah.
The minute you make a mistake, if the competition is still going, you have to adjust and try to get in position as soon as possible. You know, I watched Andy Bolton break a world record squat. He's the first 1,000-pound deadlifter. Deadlifted 1,003 in New York. I was there to watch that too. He got out of position in a squat and got forward a little bit. And he stood up and he made the squat. Now, everybody just remembers that he broke the world record squat. They don't go, oh, yeah, you know, the guy dropped his chest. It wasn't the prettiest squat in the world.
Right.
Well, you know what the guy did? The guy takes 1,200 pounds on his back and he does a partial good morning with it. You try that. You know, that's what we remember, right? And people are like, I can't believe he did that. I'm like, really? He's a 1,000-pound deadlifter. Why don't you think he can get out of position a little bit? If he got upset when it happened, he would have missed the lift.
Yeah.
The instant he got out of position, he started fighting to regain position. What I found shooting does for me is I have to stay very relaxed because if you get tense, you get upset, your shooting goes horrible. The more relaxed you are, the better the shooting goes. So if I make a mistake, I'm instantly trying to fix that mistake as fast as possible. And you can't tell me that doesn't translate to sport. If I'm in soccer and make a mistake, I instantly try to make an adjustment to minimize that mistake. If I'm out of position, I try to get back into position as quick as possible. If, you know, in weightlifting and powerlifting, ultimately, yeah, we want to do everything in perfect movement, but it's sport. It's not always going to be perfect. You know, we watch the games, CrossFit games, and some people make fun of because you'll see people fall off a rope or something like that. It's not that it's dangerous. These people climb ropes hundreds and thousands of times with no problems whatsoever. The problem is when you're pushing it at the highest level and you're fatigued and your mind goes somewhere else for a split second, it opens up the door for something. Maybe you're paying attention to someone who's getting ahead of you and you're trying to figure out, am I ahead of them in points? How many people are between us? You know, like, maybe your mind in the wrong spot, right? If you get angry, you're even in worse problems. But if you minimize that, you might make a mistake, but maybe you beat the person next to you, and instead of having 2 or 3 people between you and someone that accounts for the win, you only have 1 or 2 people, and now you still win the event. You have to minimize that. What I'm getting at is, like, you know, we can get hung up on what we don't have. You know, and our people, like, love our barbells and stuff like that, and you're not going to have all the stuff available to you that we have at our gym. You're just not going to get it right now. People are price gouging and stuff. They're hoarding, weight equipment right now. You're just not going to get this type of amount of equipment that we have in our gym. But what we can do is enjoy some hobbies or sports that you used to, or some new ones, and make some improvements in those, and bring that back with you when you're back to the gym, when you get back to the barbell, and then bring that as an added, and you'll become a better athlete. Once your strength comes back up, we'll get it back up quickly for you. Then you'll have that additional component, the things that you've learned from these other sports.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important for people to remember in life, in all of this, if we get upset about it, the next like 15, 20 minutes are literally the worst. Like if you put so much emotion into it, it's like, well, I just wasted all that time and lost focus. I'm distracted now. Like, why even do it? So, and you're totally right. And I had said yesterday, I'm like, I'm so over kettlebells. And I was like, I feel like I should actually be pretty lucky, because out of all the people in the world right now, people are making other people on Facebook Marketplace pay $800 for a used squat rack. Like, I feel good about my kettlebells right now. So, but anyways, go ahead.
No, and ultimately, when you come back to WODs that have kettlebells in it, you'll be more proficient with it.
Oh yeah.
And they'll go better, right? And I talk about soccer and be like, well, yeah, we have to social distance. It's like, cool, but you can take a soccer ball. You can do drills with that. You can get good footwork. You can work on all kinds of things with that. Okay.
Yep.
So, basketball, you don't have to play with anybody. Just shooting, dribbling, moving, lateral movements. Get into that all is going to benefit you as an athlete. That is the conjugate method. Is constant variation and rotation of exercise and movements. We're just working different strengths than we're used to working, but when we come back, it will pay dividends for us.
And I think that another part of just like going out and trying fun new sports, it's a level of play that we probably need right now to give our minds a break on all of the stuff going on. So
take some stress off. I had an athlete a long time ago. He played rugby in college, and this is years later. He goes from he's around 165, 170 pounds when he played in college. When he went back, he was 260 pounds. Okay, so he's almost 100 pounds heavier. And, he was a wing. He's an outside guy that they would get the ball to score, right? And he hadn't played rugby since college. He goes back, and he's like, first play, a guy goes to tackle me. He goes, I knock him out cold. I run right through him. He's like, I ran faster than I did in college at 90 pounds heavier. He goes like, we ended up beating they played the same college he went to. They played their current college team, the alumni did. And he's like, we beat them. He's like, they couldn't stop me. They were afraid to stop me. He's like, I can't imagine what I would have played like in college like this, And so the funny thing is sometimes you go back and maybe play a sport that you used to. And I'm not saying you're always going to be better, right? But you might realize there's some things you could do better. Like my handling skills in soccer might not be as good, but I might be able to run a short distance or change direction at a substantially faster rate than I used to.
Right.
And that's kind of a win, because you realize like, okay, I don't have the skill level maybe, but I have better physical output than I did when I played, which means that my training has done something, and that makes you happy too.
Yeah.
So even that's just a win for you,
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for today. Do you have anything else?
No, we talk too much.
Yeah.
Like I said, guys, just dig into stuff for questions for Friday, and I'm going to look at some books, maybe give you guys some suggestions on some books and things like that. And we'll talk to you guys then.
All right. We will see you Friday then.
Thanks. Yeah, bye.
Bye.